All right, everybody. High Upper Perk Middle School baseball. We're back together again. And as I promised you, we brought in our two top high school pitchers to talk to you tonight about pitching a little bit. And our pitching coach, Rick Rossiter. That's his wife's computer. That's why you see a different name on the screen. So why don't you say hi to everybody in the middle school land there. We'll start with Malachi. Want to say hi to everybody?
Yeah. Hello.
Eric.
Hello.
Coach Rossiter.
Hi, guys.
All right, so we're going to start with Coach Rossiter, talking about some important items in terms of pitching. So I'm going to share a screen with everybody, and I'm going to bring up a file that everybody can look at that you can kind of talk through. I will send this out to everybody after the fact as well, so we can kind of go from there. All right, Coach, it's all yours for now.
All right, guys. These are some things that we go over that I've gone over with our pitchers. And again, I hope that they remember this. We try to focus on a lot of these things to improve our command, to improve our control. When you break down pitching, it really breaks down pretty simply into three things, and that's timing, balance, and repetition. If you can do those things over and over, you're going to be a good pitcher, all right? And you're going to have good command, you're going to have good control. So the first one here is have a purpose. And that simply means that every time you throw a bullpen, you should have some sort of goal in your mind. Now, when we throw our bullpens in high school, we have them scripted out. So we're giving you what your goal is. But later on in the year, if you're having trouble with your curveball, if you're having trouble with your changeup, you should have a goal in there. Your coaches, myself, I will always be there to remind you about that goal, what you should be working on. But every time you pick up a ball, you have a chance to improve your control, improve your location. It says playing catch, throwing a bullpen in practice, or pitching in a game. It doesn't matter. You need to have a purpose, all right? We're now at that age where when we go out there and we are throwing to warm up, but there's other things that we can be doing. All right. And there's different games that I'm sure Coach has shared with you, or he was going to share with you. So always have a purpose when you throw. And this is kind of the same thing here too. It says make them count, make your throws count. Every throw that you throw, it means something, all right? Don't waste your time. This is one of my pet peeves here. When I see a kid throwing from a different arm slot when he's warming up, and then he goes out on the mound and he's throwing from another arm slot. It makes no sense. It's just going to hurt you in the long run. So make every throw count. And that kind of, like I said, it kind of goes with the first thing that we did. Every time you pick up a ball, you want to make sure that you're doing something, you're making the throws count. The third thing, again, repeat. All right. And what this means is, and Malachi knows this all too well, in your mechanics, in your arm slot, you want to repeat everything. All right. The timing or the speed of your mechanics has to be repeated. It can't be different. That arm slot where you throw the ball or you release the ball, it has to be the same. So those are some things that you want to be working on in your bullpens. And even when you're having a catch, if you're throwing, work on that. Repeat everything. All right. Number 4 is focus. And I'm sure these two guys right here, they can talk to you about that. Pick out a specific spot on your target and focus on hitting the target with every single throw. You can do that when you're warming up, when you're having a catch. Start when your partner is close and it's easier to hit the target. Expect to hit your target every time, but focus on it. Don't lose that focus. Practice that focus, because you're going to need to have that tunnel vision out on the mound to just, you're not thinking about anything. You're not thinking about the other team saying something to you. You're not thinking about coaches, your girlfriend, whatever. You're thinking about throwing your pitch, throwing a strike. And you can practice that focus. All right, number 5 is something that we don't use it as much. It was something we got from Tim Mesa, but As I look back, I hear this a lot from when I watch some of the major league coaches. They use this phrase, and it's aim small, miss small. Okay, and they say as cheesy and overused as this phrase is, it's actually quite profound. Make your target as small and as specific as you can, so that your misses are going to be small too. All right, so look for something that's a couple inches big and aim for that, whether it's a Nike symbol on the catcher's gear or something, or if you're warming up with somebody, they might have a symbol on their shirt. Aim for something small, because if you miss that by 3 inches, that's still pretty darn good. That's close, all right? If we aim for something really big and we miss it far away, it's not a good thing. So we always try to aim for something very small, and when we miss small, that's going to be good. Number 6. Sorry about that. I had things popping up here. Visualize, visualize, visualize. Tell yourself what you want to do with the baseball. Visualize it in your head. We don't work on this a lot. We touch on it, every now and then. I know there's a lot of major league pitchers that will actually go out the day after they pitch, and they will go through the entire game without a ball, without a glove, and they will repeat every routine. And then there's some pitchers, before they go out on the mound, they will think about the counts, they will think about what they're going to do to certain hitters, and they will go through and they will throw without a ball, without a glove, trying to visualize exactly what's going to happen. There's something to be said for that if you're thinking positive and visualizing what you're doing, there's a very good chance it will happen. All right. It's a lot better than thinking negative or not visualizing or visualizing something negative. So that's something that you can work on. Number 7, of course, we want to become a perfectionist. Always strive for perfection. Don't do anything halfway. One of the biggest things I can say here is, I think that it goes along with this, is when you guys are throwing in your bullpen sessions, you got to be a perfectionist in there. All right. You got to want to get work done. You have to want to work on things. You can't just say, okay, I got 50 pitches to throw today. I'm just going to throw my pitches. I don't really care where they go. I don't care what my curveball looks like. If that's the type of pitcher you're going to be, you're not going to succeed at the high school level, all right, at the varsity level. You have to be a perfectionist everywhere you go, everywhere you throw, but especially in your bullpens. You have to take them seriously and work on stuff in there.
So here's one drill you can use, Coach, the towel drill. If you could talk us through this one, and then we'll get to the guys' deliveries.
Sure, no problem here. Okay, so this is a drill you can do on your own, or if you have somebody else with you. Simply a towel drill. You notice the big guy there on the right. He is holding a towel, and all he's going to do is he's going to go through his motion, and instead of throwing the baseball, he's going to use the towel. Now, he's working on a lot of things here. First of all, he's working on his landing foot being straight. He's working on keeping his head straight. And if you listen to the gentleman speaking here, he's world-renowned, Tom House. He can walk you through it. He goes into much detail here. And I know a lot of you guys have done this before, but there's not a lot of pressure on your arm doing this, working on your mechanics here. And if you can watch him real quick, you're going to see how his head stays straight, shoulder stays straight. And all he's doing is he's trying to swing that towel down and hit the glove. So this is just working on your balance. It's working on your mechanics. And if you're a little off, you're not going to hit the other person's glove. All right. And again, you could probably figure out some way to do this on your own too.
Yeah, I mean, a chair with something in it, hit the top of a chair, a lawn chair or something. I mean, I know a lot of my players, I've gotten some video back some weeks ago. They're getting pretty creative on how to do stuff on their own. All right, I'll send you that drill along with a bunch of others that Coach Rossiter forwarded to me as well. Thanks, Coach. We're going to move now into delivery to players. I'm going to play this. Malachi's on the left and Eric's on the right. And then if you guys want to I'm going to have Malachi comment on the key, what he thinks the keys to a delivery are. This is only the stretch. Obviously, they've got windups too. But I'm just going to let this kind of roll at 1/8 speed from the beginning. Malachi, what are your top 3 keys to your mechanics, or what are the 3 things or 4 things that you look for when you're delivering a pitch?
Definitely focus on a small object on the catcher. Making sure I stay balanced when I come set there, making sure my right foot isn't having more pressure than the left, and just keeping my head still. That's a big problem, and finishing square, not flying out and letting my arm come out of the slot.
So the still head, yeah, you see it there real nice. What do you like about that position right there, Coach Rossiter, from Malachi?
Well, if you go back, I don't know if you can go back a little bit there.
How far back?
I was just looking at Malachi, not
right, just Malachi right now.
Yeah, I know it's going to be tough when you're screen sharing. Okay, stop right there. If you look there, his point of landing, his front foot has landed. I don't know if Coach is going to touch on hip and shoulder separation at all, but I know that's going to be something that we send out, or he's going to send out. But if you notice how his hips are forward, or almost forward, they're kind of at I don't know what you would say, maybe a 30-degree turn to the right. But if you look at his shoulder, especially his right shoulder right there, it's separated from those hips. All right, so his chest is almost pointing all the way right, while his hips are almost pointed toward the catcher. So we call this hip and shoulder separation, and that is where you really get that torque and that extra, little bump on your fastball here is when you learn to get that torque and get back there. And we do some drills that that'll definitely work on that.
All right. So Malachi, if you want to finish up, I'm going to hit play here again and talk about the rest of your delivery a little bit.
Not much else, but just making sure you follow through with everything. You don't have to necessarily land in a fielding position, but making sure you're coming around square.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll shift over to Eric. And one thing I was talking to these guys about before is this one pitch doesn't really do justice. These guys are actually very different. If you watch them out of the windup, Eric's a little more herky-jerky. He's about 2-3 inches taller. Malachi's a football player as well. He's very compact. Go ahead, Eric. Talk us through your key points.
Well, the big difference between me and Malachi is Malachi throws a lot harder than I do. But anyway, but I normally like to just stay balanced up top. And because if you're not balanced up top, you wind up falling either way, and then that affects your location. So being balanced up top allows you to kind of move through your spot.
Try to get you back to that point then. Well, so right about there.
Yeah. And I've played with having the toe down, toe up. It doesn't really matter. I found myself doing both, but just balance is a huge thing, and repeating the same thing over and over again has helped me come to that. But it took a while to get there, definitely.
And when I find that so I mean, it's an old kind of wives' tale, but you're more than likely, if you do have your toe up, there's a good chance you're going to land on your heel. So I mean, you watch most pitchers, their toe is kind of down, or you look at Malachi, it's a little bit flatter. All right, so you definitely don't want it sticking up.
Absolutely. All right, Eric, I'm going to let this roll. You can talk about the rest of it.
All right. Yeah, and the big thing we do is the Tertiary Drill, like the wall drills, where we lead with our hip, and that helps a lot moving towards the plate. Extend your stride and increases velocity a little bit.
So I know you did an awful lot of work from the time you were a freshman up till here, because you used to, as a youth player, you were concentrating on the different points to be at up top, and you were sort of pausing a little bit. I know Coach Rossiter worked with you an awful lot on making sure that hip leads.
Yeah, no, I still, even through today, have had, issues with stopping once my, not pushing my momentum all the way through. But, I've gotten better with it, and, my velocity's come along with that. But
yeah, and I know that you say Malachi throws a lot harder, and that was probably once true. But the truth of the matter is, I know with the work that you've done, you and Malachi probably only have about 4 or 5 miles an hour at most separating you, right? Malachi, fair to say you're in the mid 80s or so most recently?
Yeah, Yeah, like yeah, 86, 87.
Yeah, and Eric was hitting 82, 83, I believe, the last time we were in a gym in January, February. So, I mean, you both come a long way, but you've got very different styles and different motions. From there, I'm going to stop the screen share. I'm going to ask you guys to go through, get you guys back on the screen there. And if you grab a baseball or whatever, I started with Malachi before I start with you, Eric. Eric, what pitches do you throw? How do you hold them? What are your keys?
Eric or me?
Eric, I'm sorry.
Oh, all right. I throw fig for fastballs. Normally, I don't really throw a four seam unless I need to throw a strike. Throw my two seam with both fingers inside the laces, and I just kind of play with pressure one way or the other. And I just kind of give it a little bit of pronation like you're throwing a football, flicking that thumb in, just kind of like I do with my changeup, just to get a little bit of movement on it. And I found that to work really well because throughout most of my baseball career, my velocity hasn't been super high, so I've needed to just kind of make pitches move to miss barrels. So, and then the next pitch I throw, which is probably my best pitch, is my changeup. And I have bigger hands, so I throw a circle change. And my circle is almost underneath the ball. And I really just snap that down and in, and it runs considerably a lot.
I mean,
And
it would be fair to say that over the years, you've tended to use your changeup to set up your other stuff, correct?
yeah, so a lot of times I'll start, your big 3-hitter, 4-hitter, your big lefties, typical power hitters. I'll throw them a changeup first pitch because they're looking for fastballs. I'll throw them changeups so they're out in front, and then I'll back it up with my fastball so it looks faster than it actually is.
Right. And then that leaves your breaking ball yet.
Right, and then my curveball. I've had issues with my curveball throughout my whole career, and only really this year has it really been a consistent pitch like this past year. But yeah, I played with a lot of different grips, but the one I've been using most recently is along the horseshoe and a 12-6 motion, over the top. And not necessarily a pitch I'll throw for a strike all the time, but I get a lot of guys to swing and miss on it because I really only tend to throw it when I'm up in the count. But yeah, no, I throw fastball, 2-seam, 4-seam sometimes, and the changeup and like a 12-6.
Okay, Malachi, moving over to you. I guess it's fair to say your fastball is your best pitch. It's always been your best pitch. It's the one you trust the most.
Yeah, I also my curveball and change. I like my curveball better than my changeup. But so when I throw my fastball, I go 2-seam on the laces, and sometimes I play with pressure with finger inside or middle finger inside with the pointer finger on, or middle finger with pointer finger off to just get outside and inside motion. And when I throw my 4-seam, I go close grip. So that way it gets more velocity off of it because it's only coming off technically one finger.
Yeah, could you show that one again?
Yeah.
So that's and show with the fingers together. So the point is pretty simple. The closer your fingers are together, the more likely you're throwing the ball from 1 point instead of from 2 points when your fingers are spread, right? So that's when you're looking to get that flat strike. That's the one that really pops out of your hand real well. A lot of times, right at the knees, you like to throw that. Yeah.
So change up, I balance it in between the 3 fingers right here. I rest it inside the meat of the hand instead of the fingers. So that way you can get more of a flick on it. Sometimes I move my pointer finger to the side to get some motion on it. And with my curveball, I go inside the horseshoe. I go middle finger right here, and I go thumb back. The more back I go, the more spin I can get on it, but sometimes with less control. So if I have more control that day, I'll slowly move it back.
Coach Rossiter, if I can move it over to you a little bit. When you talk about pitchers developing pitches over the years from the time they're in middle school moving on forward, what's your quick advice on developing different pitches?
Well, I read a lot of different things, and a lot of parents don't like their kids throwing curveballs at a younger age, and I'm a firm believer that it's not the curveball that does it. It's the fact that they're being overthrown. the pitcher is being overthrown. All right, he's throwing too many pitches. I think kids can develop curveballs at younger ages. I think when you look at these two guys in the 7 years that I've been with the varsity, these two guys have two of the best changeups that I've seen from our varsity pitchers in the past 7 years. And Malachi might have the best stuff out of any pitcher that I've ever seen at Upper Perk. But they both talk. They both have 3 pitches. I know Eric, his bread and butter is his changeup. He throws the curveball to show it, so he has 3 pitches. You know, we might not throw if he's on with that fastball and changeup, we won't throw the curveball. Malachi, when he's on with all 3 pitches, nobody's going to touch him. It's nice to have 3 pitches, and that's where we go back and we talk about when you're in a bullpen. You know, changeups are tough. They're tough to learn and tough to throw effectively, and that's a pitch that you can always work on that. You can always work on that in your bullpens, work on that when you're throwing, you know, at home, whatever. Work on a grip, work on a different grip, all right? Because, you know, everybody, I don't like this, it doesn't feel right. Well, it's not going to feel right until you become comfortable with it. So work on your changeups and keep on working on them.
Right, and I think that's important. And when we talk about Malachi, we talk about Eric. You know, Malachi's also a position player, plays center field every day. Eric's in a pitcher-only kind of mode. So it's probably fair to say when I see Malachi's grip, you know, which is a hybrid, it's close to the old 3-finger thing that Coach Thomas used to teach all of us, Coach Rossiter, back in the day. And that's an easy one to get a feel for when you're playing another position and you're worried about your at-bats and stuff too. Eric gets a lot more time between bullpens, between sessions while he's working on and fiddling to work on that stuff. And that's why you see his, I think, at this point, be a little more exotic, if you will. But both of them really, really effective. Okay, moving on from there, guys, and we'll go back to Malachi at this point. 3 best tips for pitching success. Now, this could be mental, this could be physical, this could be anything. Obviously, you guys have failed your way forward for a long time since you've been 9 years of age. If I had to ask you to pinpoint what you thought your 3 best tips for success are, what would they be?
Keep a steady tempo for every single pitch. That's one of the biggest things. Make sure you don't rush yourself. After every single at-bat, get like a thing you do, like I'll like brush up the dirt or cover in the hole in the pitcher's mound to reset for the next at bat. Whatever just happened is gone, it's done with. And then just every single pitch, whether it's like warming up or bullpen, even in the game, just focus on that small target. Helps with location a ton.
All right, Eric, we'll throw it over to you.
Yeah. It's an old baseball adage at this point. The best pitch is strike one. If you throw first pitch strikes, it makes it so much easier to pitch in general. You know, because when you start behind in the count, you're going to have to throw pitches that are way more hittable. That's just the way it is. You're going to have to catch a lot of the plate, but when you get ahead in the count, you don't have to do that. Like Mackie said, have a routine of some sort in general. Whether that be if you're starting that day, what you're doing before the game, you know, the way you prepare, you know, whatever you need to do, you know, have everything down to a certain rhythm. So that way you can focus on pitching, and you can focus on throwing strikes, because honestly, that's the most important thing. You know, if you can just fill up the zone, you most likely can, you know, find yourself a spot pitching at a varsity level. You can fill up the zone and miss barrels. So, and lastly, hold runners on, I guess. That's a big thing a lot of guys kind of overlook once they get to high school that I've seen, not necessarily just on our team, but on other teams, you know, pitchers that have some really, really good stuff. They don't get a lot of base runners. Once they get base runners, they just it's a track meet. They get run all over. So
right. That's a good point, and that helps segue to the next thing I wanted to ask you guys about is, so let's say things aren't going well and you get yourself in a jam. We know that this is true in pitching all the time. Like, there's no successful pitcher out there that doesn't find his way to wiggle off the hook, right? To minimize mistakes, if we use Coach Chef's words from Virginia Tech, right? To minimize. When you're in a jam, And again, this could be mental, physical, or whatever. We'll start with Eric this time and then go to Malachi. What do you do to get yourself out of a jam? What's your process?
Like I said before, throw in strike one, because, for example, if you have like a second and third, bases loaded, first and second situation with less than 2 guys out, it's not necessarily first and second, but second and third and bases loaded with nobody out, you're going to probably wind up having to give up at least 1 run, whether that be by sac fly, a ground ball, anything like that. But getting the first out, just going through what you're normally going to do anyway, not worrying about, well, crap, there's more guys on base, I got to strike all these guys out. And while some guys have the ability to do that, it just makes everything a lot harder because you're kind of putting the load on yourself, but yet relying on your teammates and trusting them that they'll make the plays for you.
Okay, Malachi?
Because
I like what Eric said about trusting your teammates. That's a huge part of getting out of jams, especially if you're not throwing the most strikes. So just getting it in the zone and just trusting your teammates. It's like staying calm. That's the biggest thing. Don't get yourself overworked. Just stay confident and trust your mechanics. It's a huge thing. Trusting the mechanics and what you worked on and just staying confident.
Yeah, I mean, I know I've heard Coach Rossiter talk a lot about it over the years too. And so, you get guys on and things aren't going, and I see a lot of pitchers, they get all spun up about the stuff they can't control. And really all you have is executing that next pitch, right?
Yeah.
It's all you can do. It's all you can control. So it's important to keep that way. All right, so moving on from there, and we talked about your 2 different styles and your 2 different athletes, right? So Eric's involved in other activities along with baseball. He's more of a year-round baseball kind of guy. Malachi, you're a real good football player too. You train for the gridiron pretty hard as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if we think about what your year is like, what a 12-month cycle like, take pandemic time out of it now, and how do you train? And because you're both real successful and healthy pitchers, we'll start with Malachi.
So baseball. So start off with the school year, you're saying? So like say we're going into
start off anywhere. Just think about a 12-month cycle.
Okay, so after football, just start lifting a lot. Then slowly get into preseason, start loosening the arm up. Then start going into spring season. That goes into summer season, which is going to then mix into football.
Mm-hmm. So what's your combination of how much do you lift at what time of years? Are you doing anything baseball at all during a football season? Are you doing
no, I stay season? It's one sport or the other. Like usually, well, in the summer, it's hard because I'm going to have some football and some baseball. But when it's football season, it's football season. I don't touch baseball. And then going into winter, it's heavy lifting, a lot of lifting, just no baseball until preseason starts. Then start to ease off the weights a little bit. Maintain that during the season. Maintain strength. And that's it.
Okay, Eric, your 12-month cycle is very different. You can start from any point, same thing.
Yeah, no, so I really, the only school sport that I play is baseball. So Mercon has a year-round baseball schedule that, for guys that are year-round baseball players that they follow. So starting in the fall, we do, even in the summer, we do just quick half hour to an hour lifting sessions, just to build muscle, to get stronger, and, doing deadlifts, squats. And a big thing for pitchers is arm care. Personally, I can't find it right now, but I do have a resistance band that I know that my dad makes middle schoolers use. But I use that literally every single day, whether I'm lifting or after I pitch, before I pitch. I use it all the time. After every bullpen session, I'll do, a set of bungee workouts, the band workouts, just to loosen up, kind of like cooling down from my bullpen session. But like, unlike Mackie, I don't, it's not one sport or the other for me. It's just one sport. So, keeping the arm in shape, especially now, unfortunately for me, I won't be, playing in the summer or next year. But for guys that are staying, keeping your arm in shape and throwing,
Yeah. Now,
even if
since
it's
you're a year-round guy, how long a period of time do you shut your arm down that you're not throwing a ball at all? Because you go from fall ball, winter workouts start at the varsity JV level in January, some point in time.
right.
You're lifting, you're doing something in that intermittent time, you're adding bulk, but there's got to be a period of time you shut your arm down. About how long is that for you?
A couple months, 2-3 months, maybe around there, because from the end of fall ball up until we start doing workouts in the gym, which is late January, early February. So 3 months,
Yeah.
3 to 4 months in there.
And I think that's important to know, but you're still doing the bungee work in between there and you're still doing the lifting and things like that. But actual physical throwing a baseball and taking some time off is important, even if you are a year-round player. Okay. Moving on to the next thing on the list here. Basically, just advice for student athletes in general. You guys are on the tail end of your athletic careers in high school, right? Malachi's a junior, has 1 year left. Eric's a senior. Any basic advice for juggling all the things that go along with being a student athlete in high school? School, your other activities. I know, Eric, you're heavily invested in a marching band, and that creates weird schedules in the fall for you with baseball. Malachi being the multiple sport athlete and the tripping over of things in the summertime as well. And managing school, because school's a big piece of it for the next level in life, whether you're playing ball going on from high school or not. We'll start with Malachi.
So managing it's a lot. It gets to be a lot, especially when you're moving from spring season into preseason for football. The workload is a lot, but you got to make sure you can get all your schoolwork done during that time. And just during baseball, it's simple. Just school comes first. For any sport, really, it's just school first.
All right, cool. Eric?
Yeah, well, you can't play if you don't have the grades. I've seen it happen to kids. It's never personally happened to me to the point where my grades weren't enough so I could play, but I've definitely seen it happen. Kids just get overwhelmed. They don't balance it the right way. And, it is hard. And it's not easy, but that's what you sign up for when you sign up to play a school sport. You got to be a student athlete. I think, Mercon says that a lot. It's called student athlete, not athlete student.
Okay, so from that point in time, there are a couple of questions that got sent in to me from two of my players. So I'm going to go through those two, and then I'm going to have Coach Rossiter add some stuff, and we'll get this thing wrapped up. I really appreciate your time tonight. So you guys got into it a little bit when you talked about your pitches, but we didn't really talk about one of my young guys asked, how do you mix your pitches at the high school level? Like, when you're thinking about sequence and you're working, and I'm going to have Coach Rossiter probably talk to this one as well, too, because I know he does a lot of most all the pitch calling, but what is it about mixing pitches up? Like, you're clearly not just throwing the change up to throw because somebody put a number down randomly, right? So Eric, we'll start with you and then we'll go to Mac.
Yeah, well, my pitching style is definitely backwards. I'll start off a game throwing changeup first pitch of the whole game to a leadoff hitter. Most guys start off with a fastball because that's their best fit for me. I just start and throw with my best pitch, and Coach Rossiter knows, what my strengths are, so he'll call to my strengths. And it's really being in tune with your coaches, because they'll definitely call what you're comfortable with if you communicate with them.
Right. Can you speak to, I guess I'll add to the question in terms of mixing pitches. Can you speak to how the game situation matters in terms of mixing pitches? And can you speak to the individual hitter? And because there's kind of a push-pull there, right? Like,
right.
There's guys that hit certain pitches well, but then there's also the game situation.
Right. So if you're in a situation where you're kind of calling your own pitches, where your catcher's just putting a number down and you're shaking off or nodding, if you throw a first pitch fastball and the kid's just way behind it, or you got a guy down 2 strikes and he's fouled off both to the opposite side and he's way behind, just because there's 2 strikes doesn't mean you need to throw a curveball or a changeup. You can throw the fastball as a strikeout pitch, elevating the fastball, which I started to do more to guys that are really free swinging and really just want to hit. You can expand the zone a little bit and make them swing at stuff that's not in the zone, that's not necessarily hittable. But again, you get the guy that's just going to eat your fastball for lunch. Your big 3 and 4 hitters that you see from Methacton, Perk Valley, Springford. Locating a good changeup or first pitch curveball that they're not expecting on the outside half, it's a good way to steal a strike from them.
Gotcha. Malachi?
What Eric just said covers what I do usually. In the beginning of the game, usually end up throwing fastball to every single guy until I get to know what they're like as a hitter. Then I can start working in, change up or curveball as for first pitch. And that's usually, curveball is usually going to be to like the 3 and 4 or 5 hitter. Then just if you're low in the count, if you're low in the lineup, the kid's down, 0-2 in the count, and he can't even catch up to your fastball. There's no reason to throw off speed. You just got to attack the fastball. You got to push it. But don't be afraid if you're in a 2-2 count. Don't be afraid to throw the curveball.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid because they're going to expect the fastball in a 2-2, 3-2 count. Don't be afraid to throw that changeup or curveball for a strike. It'll really catch them off guard.
Coach Rossiter, you want to add from a pitch calling perspective in terms of what you're looking at and how you call a game and mix things up?
Sure. I think, first of all, for younger pitchers, a good rule of thumb is that, I share this with these guys sometimes, is you don't want to go to 2 balls. So you want to pitch ahead, you want to get ahead. Once you get the 2 balls in the count, then you're behind, and here comes the fastball. You have to throw a fastball. So, think like that. I want to get ahead of these pitchers all the time, especially at, maybe at a JV at an 8th grade age. That might change a little bit as you get into varsity. We chart everybody. We chart every team every year, and we keep those charts. And I look at the charts. I compare them year in, year out. Who's back from the other teams? I know what they did to us last year. So I go by that. I go by how our pitcher's throwing that day. What's on for him? What's working for him? Some days Malachi's curveball isn't on, but he's blowing away pitchers with the fastball, so we don't have to rely on the curveball as much. Sometimes I said it before, maybe his curveball is working better one day, and we'll use that more. But it depends on the batters. I think you want to get ahead. We still want to get ahead. Bad things happen when you get behind in the count. So we don't try to be cute. If we get ground outs, we get flyouts, we're fine with that. We're not looking to strike everybody out. But it'll just change from day to day depending on what's happening, who we're playing, how they're hitting. So there's no, don't go to two balls in the count. That's the big thing.
Gotcha. Right. Yeah. When you're working ahead, it's so much easier. But I like the mentality of also, no matter what the count, don't be afraid to throw, something. Trust your stuff.
Right. You can do that. And definitely get somebody that's a good hitter. You don't want to, you're not going to give in to them, especially if you have a base open. So.
Yeah. And again, that gets into the situational part, absolutely.
Yep.
So the next question that got sent in, Eric, you already probably kind of answered this, so I'm going to throw it at Malachi. Keeping your arm healthy and ready to use. And again, Malachi, your year is very different. But the one thing I think you've both been has been arm healthy. I've known you both a long time. Malachi, you had some minor problems that shut you down once when you were really young. But but I don't think since ever.
No, not since.
So what are your keys to arm health, Malachi?
I'm not really big on icing. I just like to do a lot of band work. That's keeping the shoulder healthy is huge for me. That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Just not a lot of long toss either. I'm not big on like doing long toss and warm up. When I'm feeling it, I'll do it. But other than that, I try to keep warm ups short.
Right. But you also fire a whole lot more bullets from the outfield than a guy like Eric.
Yeah.
Right. So that probably becomes your long toss, right?
Yeah.
Because you're an everyday position player as well. Eric, you're more of a guy to ice a little bit more, correct?
Yeah, I personally ice. I find it to work for me, but a lot of guys have, different methods of taking care of their arm. But you have to find what works for you, and work with coaches and make sure you tell them what you're doing. They'll just kind of go off and do your own thing.
Yeah, and I think communication's the key. I think, and I'm going to throw that at Coach Rossiter. Arm health and players and communication. What's your best advice?
Well, we ice. I think I'm a firm believer in icing because there's no studies out there that say that icing is going to hurt you. Now, I know that icing, to some people, it gives you stiffness. And with Malachi, if you're,
that's a big thing.
if he's got to go out and play center field the next day after he's pitched nine innings or 7 innings, and then he's going to ice and then go out and pitch the next day, his arm's probably going to be a lot stiffer if he ices. And I understand that. But in the beginning of the year when they're not throwing as much, we definitely make them ice. There's all the major league teams are doing it. All the college teams are still doing it for the most part. I mean, you can read that icing doesn't help at all until I read that icing is bad, which isn't going to happen because there's a lot of swelling that goes on in your arm after you throw. So, and you can't feel that, you can't see that. But I think this year was going to be the first year we were talking about it until we got shut down that we were going to say, guys, if you don't want to ice, it's going to be up to you, all right? Because I know some guys don't feel comfortable doing that. So,
yeah, and it depends on the role, it depends on the rhythm of the things, and right, we got two very different guys. But the bottom line is to keep yourself healthy. And the one thing they both use an awful lot are the resistance bands in different ways, and that's absolutely a thing because it keeps their mechanics sharp, I think, and I think it also keeps the shoulder healthy. The shoulder and the elbow are huge in this whole thing. So one question, I didn't send you guys ahead of time, but one thing I want to finish up on. So you two have known each other a long time, have been in dugouts together a long time, and you've seen each other pitch for a long time. So if I had to ask each of you what you like, or when you watch the other guy pitch, what have you learned from the other guy? What would you say? We'll start with Eric.
Well, for a lot of youth ball, Mackey threw harder than a lot of people. He would blow by a lot of little league kids. But yeah, as you get older, velocity, he still throws hard, but a lot of other guys throw hard too. And he's been able to just really work one pitch at a time. And it's really cool to see, and just pick a hitter apart one pitch at a time, throwing your best pitch. And
Okay, so Malachi, same question.
I like Eric's location. He's throwing dimes every time. It's just he can be in a 3-2 count and still paint the corners. Like it's something I need to work on myself. So seeing Eric can do that, it's pretty impressive.
Okay, so that's going to get close to wrapping it up. Coach Rossiter, any final words of wisdom for our middle school guys on pitching?
I was just going to, talk about these guys a tiny bit, and
Sure.
I don't want to get anybody upset here because we did get canceled, but we were looking forward to the season with these two guys here, and the rest of the pitching staff we had. We thought we probably had one of the better pitching staffs that we've had in the last 7 years, and these two guys have come a long way. I had both these guys in Junior Legion, and from they've learned to control themselves on the mound. They've learned to become better pitchers. They're great kids to coach. They listen. They're very respectful kids, and just great kids to have around. And again, we got canceled, but this was one of the best groups of kids that we've had to work with, and I'm going to miss everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody feels the same way. But, in some small way, I'm glad you guys had an opportunity to give back to the program a little bit this way. And I know we're all looking forward to watching Malachi take the mound again. He's got one more opportunity in blue and gold. I know Eric will probably be his biggest fan, whether he's there to watch it or not. So I appreciate all your time, everybody. Thanks very much. And that takes care of this installment of Things on Pitching. Thanks, folks.